Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am going to pause as we welcome our participants today into our webinar. Thank you for joining us. My name is Noemi Guevara. I'm the Director of Alumni Engagement here at California State University, Long Beach. Thank you so much for joining us today for our next edition of our 49er Industry Chat. Before we start, would like to let you know this session is being recorded and it will live on our website at csulb.edu/alumni. Also, I want to encourage you to submit any questions throughout our chat today in the Q&A box located above or below your screen for our guest speaker today. And now it's my honor to introduce Mark Ashby, Distinguished Engineer for Medtronic, with the title of his presentation, Engineering the Extraordinary Life-Saving Medical Technology. Mark has worked as an engineer in the medical device industry for over 30 years. Today, Mark is a distinguished engineer on the research and technology team at Medtronic in Irvine, where he works to advance medical technology for the company's neurovascular business. In 2007, Mark led a team of engineers to pioneer a revascularization procedure using the Solitaire device to retrieve clots from occluded blood vessels in the brain and restores blood flow for patients suffering ischemic strokes. Mark's work, along with the work of his engineering colleagues, has completely changed the course of stroke treatment and contributed to improve patient outcomes, including reduced mortality and complications. Please join me in welcoming today's Industry Chat host, Mark Ashby. Mark, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you, Noemi. That was quite an introduction. If I could get a hold of Mark, I better hire him. I'm super excited about being back at Long Beach State today to talk to folks about some of my industry experience and also to reflect on how I think Long Beach did a great job preparing me for a good career. I graduated in 1983, in spring of 1983. So this is always a kind of a special deja vu time of year for me. And I know that the students or recent grads on the call maybe are also congratulations are in order. So good work to all of you guys. I've been at this for 39 years, and 32 of those years have been in the medical device industry. And I think the topic I want to talk about today is truly one of those rare breakthrough technologies that people sometimes get the good fortune of participating in, and I had that good fortune. And also I want to point out that May is National Stroke Awareness Month, and it's an effort that's driven by the American Stroke Association, and I think it's super important. And if you guys have a chance, take a minute and visit their website. And there's some really simple tools in there about how to identify the symptoms of a stroke. And it can really save somebody's quality of life or even save their life altogether.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And before we get into a little bit more about your current career, I would like us to start at the beginning as, your time through Cal State Long Beach. What was it like for you here at Long Beach? Any memorable moments, any faculty that inspired you to pursue a career in mechanical engineering?
Sure. Boy, I'll have to be concise here because I do have tons of memories and stuff, but I grew up in Huntington Beach. And I was a commuter to CSULB, like most of the other 30,000 students that were there at the time. And I remember pulling into that parking lot for the first time and thinking, holy lightning, this place is gigantic. And it was fortunate for me that I have a big brother, Skip, who was also a mechanical engineer from CSULB. And he was a couple of years ahead of me in school. And with his example and and his guidance, it was really, really crucial to me, especially early on. He helped me figure out that luck favors the prepared, and also that favored my blood pressure. So once I got my study habits in order, I really started to enjoy school more, and I was able to enjoy my professors more. And I remember enjoying things like engineering day, and working to build a rubber band powered car for that a couple of years. And there were some brilliant distractions available on campus that we could participate in. And I also remember my senior project for an automotive engineering class. I built an eco-friendly bumper and strapped this thing onto the front of my Volkswagen Baja Bug. And with Dr. Walter Edelman standing on top of a loading dock behind the engineering buildings, I ran my car into the loading dock. And I remember his ear-to-ear grin before, during, and after. And I wasn't grinning until after, and I knew my car was still in one piece. But that was one of my great memories. And then I also remember every May, the sense of, I graduated in May. And so I just, it's a great deja vu feeling, you know, the sense of accomplishment you have for achieving that. And I also remember how eager I was to get to work and put that degree to work.
Wonderful. What led you to pursue the degree in engineering and get into that medical engineering? And I know now we have the biomedical engineering major, and why not that? I don't know if it existed when you graduated.
Alrighty. Yeah, in fact, I think it didn't, but if it did, I might have been interested in it. I can tell you that my path to engineering began with my dad. He was an aerospace engineer, and so me and my dad and my brother, we were always turning wrenches on something in the garage, or there was no project that was off limits. And I would say a bench vise and a lot of fails taught me a really good appreciation for some good planning and applying a trust but verify standard to your own work. And CSULB was the perfect place for me to explore an engineering degree. It was a big school with a good reputation, geared for commuters, and I definitely, that was the path I felt most comfortable with. And even back in the day, you know, Long Beach cranked out a lot of quality engineers, top quality engineers, and some of those have been the best bosses in my career. And straight out of school, I worked for an aerospace subcontractor in Costa Mesa, and my first boss, I couldn't have asked for a better boss. He was, his name is Roy Hart. He was a double E from Long Beach State, and just full of all kinds of wisdoms. And I remember one of the things that he really pushed for is, you know, we always want to be looking for a better way to get things done. So instead of doing our analyses on a drafting board or doing them by hand, he pushed to do it on a PC. And I think the PC we bought might have been a Radio Shack PC, but if it wasn't, it was a super early HP job. And so we reduced some of the things we did to being models on that computer, which was for us was a big step forward. About 7 years into my career, a colleague of mine convinced me to take a look at the medical device technology arena. And I ended up working for a small, at the time, a very small company in Laguna Hills called Applied Medical. Now it's a huge company in Rancho Santa Margarita.
With Saeed, so you work for Saeed?
I did, and Saeed is here. You know, here it comes again. He's a Long Beach State mechanical engineer.
Super proud.
Yeah, and working for Saeed, it's really clear. He has just a ferocious work ethic, and he is tenacious as it gets. And he also taught us, he's a big believer in controlling the processes that are critical to your outcomes. Those are some of the takeaways I have from Applied that I always value. And eventually I had an opportunity to work for a small neurovascular company in San Clemente. And I worked there as a consultant. partially through connections I had in the medical device industry, but also because I was super fascinated with it. It was an emerging field at that time. I got to work with a lot of really good bosses and fantastic people, and I get to cross paths with them throughout my career since then. And that little company ultimately became part of Medtronic.
Wonderful. And you just touched about something, the whole networking. I think it's something that we don't learn in the room, and it's just so important for our students and our recent alumni to keep in mind that you don't know who you might meet in your path through life, to make sure that you build this network that might introduce you to your next opportunity.
I think that's absolutely true. It's one thing that I learned very, very well from Long Beach State is if you put your nose to the grindstone, people notice and people will invest in you. And some of the professors there really, really drove that home.
Wonderful. So what has been your favorite part of being a medical technology engineer?
So I've had the privilege of working on a lot of different technologies, but I think by far stroke have been my favorite ones. And there's a couple kinds of stroke. There's ischemic stroke, which is where a blood vessel becomes occluded, and there's hemorrhagic stroke, which is where you have a bleed. And either way, I think strokes are just some of the scariest health crises you could be faced with. It's so personal, it's your brain that's at risk here. And Medtronic has established itself as a leader in the neurovascular field, looking at acute interventions for these diseases. And even now we're looking at, we're trying to swim upstream and downstream from the issue we're looking at things like stroke detection and stroke recovery. So it never gets boring. And it's still, I think it's still a very young and exciting field. And that's the kind of clinical focus that led us to develop what became the Solitaire mechanical thrombectomy device and procedure. And it's truly been one of the most exciting and rewarding experiences in my career. And I have to say this, it always kind of gets me choked up, but hearing patient stories about what Solitaire did, it always gets me. It doesn't matter how many of them I hear or when I hear them, it always gets me. So there's
and
one
to know
about,
that you're saving so many people's lives must feel amazing every day.
Well, it's pretty nice to know. It's good to know that what you do for a living is making a meaningful difference for people. So I must say that is a good feeling. It's one of the more rewarding parts about working in this industry.
Wonderful. I do have some questions here, but first a comment from Luis Morales that they're watching you in the training room right now. And
oh boy. Hey guys, I hope save some lunch for me.
And then I have a couple questions. You pioneered a revascularization procedure using the Solitaire device. What does the R&D and testing process look like to get new medical device approved?
Oh boy. So this is a regulated industry, and what we're doing is super important. I mean, people's lives are hanging in the balance. So in the early R&D phase, I think it's always super important you have to make models that are extremely challenging, and they're going to give you very critical input, and the more challenging the model, the more often the models kind of break your heart, like, oh, I got to go back to the drawing board. But once you get through some of your aha moments and you're starting down the road on a solution, that's when a lot of the real tough work starts. And so, like, for instance, in the case of Solitaire, we had our aha moments many, many years ago, and through the work, through just an unbelievable amount of work of hundreds and hundreds of people in all groups, you know, engineering, clinical, regulatory, marketing, every group you could imagine here, production, process development, hundreds of people contributed to that thing becoming a successful medical device therapy. And just the amount of testing and the amount of scrutiny we have to put on that device before we go out and propose a study or try to get it approved is just, it's staggering.
Right. I have another question. As a trained engineer, are you also required to stay current on neuro and health knowledge? And also, how did you marry a career in your background engineering and now working in this biomedical field? Like, is there continuing learning you do to be abreast of all the terminology?
Yeah, we do stay very current with anatomy and disease states, and we're pretty avid readers about clinical breakthroughs and clinical trends and so forth. So it's very important, and it's even a formal part of our training that we keep up on these sort of things. And then incorporating being a mechanical engineer, while it doesn't have the bio or the medical in the title, I think mechanical engineers are some of my favorite folk. And also biomedical engineers are also some of those favorite folk. And so at this particular business unit, so much of our legacy is built on products they're very mechanical in nature, you know, and I'm not downplaying what they do, but you know, we are like the plumbers of the brain, so to speak. We are doing some very, very intricate and fine work in the brain, and it's pretty well suited for mechanical engineers or biomedical engineers.
Wonderful. And I know you have a short video that you like to show our attendees today that shows how Solitaire works. I think, would this be a good time to incorporate it?
Sure. Now, wish me luck here. Can you guys see something?
Yes.
Let me get. Alrighty. So this is the business end of the Solitaire device, and it's kind of a very stent-like looking device. And you see and it's made out of nitinol, which is a super elastic alloy. So the device I'm showing here is roughly about 4 millimeters in diameter and maybe about 40 millimeters long. But this thing has no problem compressing down to a 0.5 millimeter diameter, which is the size of the microcatheter that's going to deliver it. And it always stays attached to this delivery and retrieval wire. And so along this device's length, there are rows of, we put rows of, they're really hard to see in this illustration, but they're little platinum markers. And these platinum markers are critical for the doctor to see what they're doing, because they work under fluoroscopy when they're doing this. So there has to be little radiopaque landmarks along this device to let them know where they're at. And so let's see here. Next up, I think we're going to show you what a stroke looks like. So this is the illustration of a stroke, or what's also called a brain attack. So it's just like a heart attack, except this is happening in the cerebral artery. This clot is preventing flow from getting past it. And so, you know, this is the medical emergency that Solitaire is going after. So a doctor is going to access probably your femoral artery, and they're going to send a guide wire through this clot so that they can then pass that 0.5 millimeter diameter microcatheter through the clot. And now they're ready to do the work with Solitaire. And so the reason this view just changed is this is a simulation of what it looks like to work under fluoroscopy. So the doctor, of course, can't see what's going on inside your head, but they can pass x-rays through and see see where devices are placed and so forth based on those radiopaque markers. So this is how they would advance the Solitaire to be positioned across the clot. See how the distal end of the Solitaire is past the clot and the proximal end is over here. And so the next thing the doctor is going to do is they hold the Solitaire in place while they remove the microcatheter. And so what happens here is pretty amazing. This is actually was one of our first big aha moments with this device. Is you see how as this Solitaire is trying to open, it kind of shoves the clot up against one side of the lumen, and it also engages the clot, but it also suddenly relieves pressure against that clot. So now with that engagement and the relieved pressure, this clot becomes way easier to mobilize and remove from the patient. So that putting this in perspective in terms of what a therapy is for this area in this field, and this is from the clinical side of this equation. This is from the doctors. They say time is brain, and just to put that into a quantity is every minute of a stroke, you lose 1.9 million neurons in your brain. So this is it's a steamroller that happens fast. And so the faster a person can get to therapy and the more efficient and the more effective that therapy is, the better off your outcome is going to be.
And like you said, every minute counts. I do have questions from like, how close do you work with your team works with creating something like this to testing it to taking it out into the doctor's hands? Like what does that process look like?
Well, we're even though all of our roles at Medtronic are different in a lot of very fundamental ways, there's one really common link and a common thread that we all work towards it, and we all work to. It's called VOC. It's the voice of customer. And so the most important thing that basically directs our work, it's the canvas we paint on every day, is what does our customer need to improve the outcomes for his patients? And so a lot of this requires being close to our customer. We have an innovation lab at our facility here. And in that innovation lab, we have $1 million biplane system. It's as good as any hospital has. It's an amazing imaging system. And so we can bring the customers here and show them our new devices and so forth, and review their insights about where they think things need to head or how we might improve. And we also spend a lot of time in their facilities to gain the same kind of insights.
Wonderful. And my next question goes into learning more about Medtronic. Could you share some background on the company, how big it is? I saw on their website you guys have offices all over the world. And do fellow alumni from Cal State Long Beach work with you? And I think you touched upon it a little bit earlier, how you made your way to Medtronic.
Yeah. So Medtronic is saying it's a big place is probably an understatement. We have a lot of innovation and a lot of big ideas going on here, and part of that is because of the scale and the diversity we have here. We have over 90,000 people across 150 countries, and like even in California, we certainly have a big presence, and even in Orange County, we have over 2,200 employees. And our technologies treat just a myriad of conditions. I could probably be naming them for the next 45 minutes, but I'll just name a few. We make cardiac devices and surgical robotics. We make AI-assisted cancer detection tools, surgical tools, patient monitoring tools, and then my favorite are the neurovascular tools that we make here in Irvine. And my path here was, it's probably a really typical story for the medical device industry. And the reason I say that is this industry is gigantic, but it's also surprisingly small and intimate. I don't know how else to describe it. And so through connections at my first device company, and interest in an emerging neurovascular space, I found my way to a little startup in San Clemente that was working on neurovascular things. And ultimately that company became part of Medtronic. And those same people, I have stepped away at times in my career. I've worked for other medical device companies, but I've always found my way back to neurovascular. And I really do think that neurovascular and Medtronic have been lucky charms for my career. I got to give a couple folks a shout out here. One of them is Earl Slee. He was my first boss in this industry in neurovascular. Earl is a giant in neurovascular, and he's well loved and well known. And I just can't say enough good things about Earl. And then another fella I met in this industry was Brian Strauss, who he happens to be a Long Beach State MBA, and Brian is just a character in general, but he is one of the most resourceful people I've ever run into, and he is absolutely the king of work-throughs and workarounds. He puts to use whatever tools he has, and he gets the job done. And this kind of brings me to Medtronic in general. I would say, so Medtronic's been at this for over 70 years. You know, we've been at the forefront of medical device technology development, and through innovation and acquisition, Medtronic is the leader in the neurovascular space. And I consider myself super lucky to be in this space. It's really vibrant. I think it's a very young and active space, and to be working with the leader in it is just awesome for me.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us. I do have a couple questions. What does the path look like to becoming a distinguished engineer? What certifications or accomplishments do you need to reach this title in this field?
Oh boy, that's a good one. So one of the very special things, so typically, I think this is kind of typical in industry, is that the path to the biggest career growth and so forth is on the management career ladder. And you know, good, bad, or indifferent, that's the way most industry works. People kind of try to get on that ladder because they want to accelerate their careers. And I think Medtronic has a very different approach to this. We do have a technical career ladder, and Medtronic, it's real, and they encourage people to take it. And so that's something that's influenced decisions in my career in the not too distant past. I was on the management ladder, and I crossed over to the technical ladder, and it's been really good for me in terms of career satisfaction and also moving forward. So there's still room to go up on the technical ladder at Medtronic, and I think we place a lot of value on our technical chops.
Wonderful. What qualities do you look for in other engineers on your team?
Oh boy, I think we really like, of course, people have to have the book smarts and some skill. They got to bring some skills to the table. But I think maybe some of the things that are most important is how resourceful are they? Are they bringing an open mind to the picnic? You know, we don't want people bringing a lot of confirmation bias to things that they do. We want open minds. We want people that like engaging with their teammates and value their teammates' opinions and seek their teammates' opinions, and also don't hold close to the vest their thoughts. Because I think it's that kind of interaction that really accelerates making progress in this industry.
Right. You talk about skills. Are there any specific skills you would suggest our students and our young alumni really work on if they want to, break through into this industry? I've been talking to some engineers, and communication is key. Is that the same in this industry as well?
I think communication is certainly a basic skill. I think it's important to bring that to work with you and to be able to effectively communicate and so forth. I think something that's an increasingly important part of doing business is the analytical skills and the process of just the process that you bring to designing successful technologies. The way you vet them is incredibly important. Design verification, which is kind of where you verify on the bench and so forth that this thing is going to perform and meet the specs that you say. But I think equally or more important is design validation, and that's basically where you prove that in the customer's hands, this thing is going to do what it needs to do. And so I think there's kind of a bit of an array of skills that people need to bring to the table, but I think that the most important one is resourcefulness and an open, receptive mind and being agnostic about idea generation.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Can you share with us, what does your typical day look like at Medtronic?
So my day has looked different over the years. I've had a few different roles. I guess that comes along with my advanced years. I've been an R&D consultant. I've been an R&D manager, and now I'm an R&D engineer, or as I guess it's a little bit earlier than that. We call it R&T, research and technology, but that's what I do today, and I'm really thankful for that technical career ladder because I've enjoyed that just immensely. I think something that's true in engineering that is probably more true in engineering than any other field is that input begets output. And so for me, it's really important that I show up. I'm in the office every day. I really enjoy it. And it's just because of that, the more input I can get, or if people have questions for me, the easier I am to get to. I think that helps the whole process along. And this might sound a little bit corny, but availability and proximity makes it really easy to engage. And we need to engage our customers. We need to engage our engineering teammates. We need to engage cross-functional teammates and our other business units. And I think that's what really accelerates how we get stuff done around here.
Yeah, I think for any team, just being able to go down the hall or around the corner and say, what do you think? Or where did we go wrong? Just having that quick conversation is the best. I know you shared it a little bit with the video of the story of discovering how you discovered Solitaire, and how that would change medicine. But what was the inspiration for creating it?
Oh, that's a good one, Noemi. That's a really good question. Stroke really has always, and it continues to be a huge cause of death and morbidity. And before Solitaire, I think the therapies were generally limited to drugs, and the prognosis, especially for a large vessel occlusion, was pretty grim. And that's where there's an AHA publication. It's literally titled "Time is Brain Quantified," and that's the one where they specify, or they estimate that 1.9 million neurons die every minute you're having a stroke. So that's quite a bit of inspiration. There's this huge, devastating disease that there wasn't a good solution for this. And the American Stroke Association worked really hard to raise this awareness. And they have a tool that's really simple. I'm going to tell you what it is, because I I like it, and I hope everyone goes on the Stroke Association's website. It's called FAST. And this is how somebody can identify the signs of a stroke. It's facial droop, that's the F, arm weakness, speech difficulty, and time to call 911, because every minute counts. The faster someone can get care and the faster they can resolve that clot, the better off they're going to be. So along the way, there was this is back in the day, quite a few years. There was one little company that had this kind of funny corkscrew device. It was a little like an endovascular corkscrew that was intended to engage the clot and pull it out. And it actually turns out it didn't work very well. But what we saw is that our customers, these doctors, were willing to get up in the middle of the night and just fight like hell to give their patients a better chance. And so we were very, very determined to find a fast and effective way to restore flow and give better outcomes for the patients. And the first step in this was to create a realistic benchtop model. At the time, this is hard to imagine, but at the time, the models for ischemic stroke, they used lychee fruit as the proxy for the clot. It was kind of a tough thing to get your head around, but people were modeling this with a piece of lychee fruit as the clot. And so if you think about input begets output, you might not get the best clot retriever if your clot is a piece of fruit. So we made a really challenging model. I'm sorry. Our model was very challenging. It was blood-based. It had flow, side branches, pulsatile impact. It was a very challenging model. And then on the device development side, we really set about being agnostic about this. And we created dozens of different concepts to try in this model. We also encouraged our customers, our doctors, when they said, hey, we think we have an idea, we wanted to try it out. And we even looked at other companies' designs. If they were comfortable to show us, we were comfortable to try it. And all we asked is that we try it in our model. And ultimately, we did get our aha moments. And it came with what you see there as the Solitaire device. And And that actually was a device that was already in our portfolio for other purposes. But we didn't bring bias to the picnic. We were really open-minded about what we tried and how we used it and so forth. And we came up with a really good therapy for stroke. And so I would say, even though the models kept getting tougher, we kept seeing that performance, and we knew we had something special. And with hundreds of people working on this thing over years, it's been awesome to see how Solitaire has built the stroke community's confidence in mechanical thrombectomy. That's what they call the procedure. And also to see a track record of 10 years of really robust safety and efficacy behind this in all over the world.
Did you get to name it, or did the team name it Solitaire?
I think this is just I didn't name it, and they're lucky.
Okay.
Oh my God, when engineers name products, it's spectacular. So I think our marketing folk named it, and I don't know the genesis for the name.
Okay. I have a question from our audience. For the Solitaire device or any other device you worked on, how many evolutions of a device is typical? Once it is FDA approved, do you and your team continue to improve the device or procedure to improve the patient's results?
That's a great question. And evolution is part of this process. And we're now on our fourth generation of Solitaire. And while the fundamentals are still there, the device continues to enable doctors to do what they're currently doing better. Like, for instance, it's much easier to see it now than it used to be because we've added a lot of radiopaque markers. It's easier to deliver and retrieve because we've modified the delivery system. It's it's in different sizes so that they can choose which territories of stroke they're going after. So it has continued to evolve, and it will continue to evolve.
Wonderful. And with Medtronic having, being all over the world, do you get to travel and collaborate with the other teams in the company?
Yeah, we do. We sometimes we travel for very specific reasons to other business units and so forth. And sometimes we meet other people from other business units in labs or in studies that we're conducting.
Mm-hmm.
And then also at least once a year, we have a science and technology conference where people from all business units get together, and that's quite a get together. And people are presenting papers and abstracts and showing off their wares. So it gives people, it gives your OU really good visibility to other OUs, and people can figure out, oh, I better collaborate with those guys about this, or I remember who to call when I have that question.
Right. Wonderful. You mentioned being in the medical device industry for bulk of your career. How did you know this engineering niche was right fit for you? For someone just starting in engineering, what do you recommend looking for in helping find rewarding work?
I think part of it has to do maybe with your personal passions, but I can tell you what I was really impressed with in the medical device industry is, like, as a young guy getting into it, I thought, man, I can't believe I'm working on stuff that they're going to put inside people's bodies, and I also really appreciated that this is a very regulated industry, but the regulatory aspects of this industry are actually, I like them. I appreciate them a lot, because I came out of a different type of industry with different regulatory structure, the little aerospace subcontractor.
Mm-hmm.
And so there, things are done a bit more by tradition, and because that's what the mill spec written in 1946 says. And here you do things and you demonstrate things that work, because it's on the company, it's on you to prove and demonstrate those things. I'm not saying it, we just do whatever we please. But what I do like about it is that we do the right things for the right reasons. And that had a good feel to it for me.
Wonderful. I have another question from our audience. Do you have any advice for people looking into transitioning from a different industry into the biomedical industry?
Yeah, I think I generally speaking, I would say you should go for it. I did it, and I'm just a little old mechanical engineer from Long Beach State who worked in other industries for the first few years of my career, and I think it's a great field. There's every need in this field for everything you learn in school, whether it's mechanical design or fluid dynamics, and everything we learn in school that can be applied in other fields, I think can be put to use and put to work in the medical device industry. And this is such a vast industry with so many technologies.
And that kind of leads into my next question. With over 32 years under your belt in engineering, you've probably seen a lot of changes in the field since you started.
Yeah, that's an understatement. So I'm not going to waste any time talking about the engineering changes. Of course, they've been really vast in the last 40 years. But for me, one of the most positive differences I see is the diversity of backgrounds in my colleagues, and huge improvements in gender equity. This is one of my, I guess it's my favorite saying here, is that input begets output. And so I've seen just tremendous technical contributions made by people who had to break barriers to get into this industry. That's been one of the best things I've seen change over the years. When I was in school, there were hardly any women engineering students.
Mhm.
And I remember when I started my first job in 1983 at that little aerospace subcontractor. So you have to remember, this is a 22-year-old walking into industry, but I walked into a converted warehouse that was full of drafting tables. And by my standards, there was an old guy sitting at every one of them, and a few of them smoking. And it looked like a scene out of the movie Apollo 13. So that's what industry looked like to this 22-year-old. And so today, at Medtronic, for instance, 50% of our workforce are women, and over 40% of our global management team is women, and almost 40% of our domestic workforce are ethnically diverse. So it's not Apollo 13 anymore. It looks a lot different.
Even at Long Beach, we do have a program of girls in STEM or engineers, where they're bringing middle school girls to learn about the engineering field. So it is a changing field for us, and hopefully more women will continue to join the industry.
Yeah, I hope that trend keeps going. It's been really nice.
Wonderful. So I know we are up against time, Mark. Any final thoughts or observations, recommendations, words of wisdom that you have for our students and our alumni listening to this?
I would say, so I'll give you some dad advice. Your homework matters, and your professor's office hours matter, and take advantage of those every chance you get, because those habits will keep paying dividends throughout your career. Those are some of the best things I took away from Long Beach. And if you're not graduating right now, do your best to go after internships, and inevitably someone's going to have a cooler one that pays more. And my attitude about that is, so what? You're after the experience, and your future employees can tell a lot about your character from this. If you just graduated and you're looking for the start to your career, figure out you got to get your foot in the door first to put some spark in your career. And this might sound a little funny, but the role is secondary. It's access that matters, because once you're in, things start rolling a lot faster. And for those of you guys already working, find ways to lift up others into the industry, and in particular, lift up people from different backgrounds or diverse backgrounds. I think that's super important, and that's been a gigantic change since the start of my career. And I would also say, working in this industry, for me, it's a good industry to be in. I think this medical device technology industry is very strong, and I think that's for a number of reasons. But all of us and our families and our friends and our neighbors and strangers, we're all going to be faced with health crises. And it's such a nice feeling to know that what you do for a living makes a meaningful change in people's lives. And it's also nice to know from a practical standpoint that it's going to be around tomorrow. This career is going to be around tomorrow.
Wonderful. And if anyone wants to connect with you, please email us and we will connect you with Mark. Mark, thank you so much for your time today, and congratulations on an amazing career, and congratulations on really saving lives every day and the difference that you're making in the world. We're very happy that you're part of the Beach family.
Thank you so much, Noemi, and all of the support from Long Beach is greatly appreciated, and I look forward to doing this again someday.
Wonderful. Maybe next time we could do it in person on campus and chat on campus. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Please follow us on social media to learn about our future chats, and visit our website to visit this recording or any of our past recordings. Thank you so much for attending.